Hi audio nerds and welcome back to the channel. It's great to see you all, and if you haven't subscribed yet, do take a second just to hit that red button below the video. Thank you. Now, much as I enjoy kicking back to my favourite music, playing on my favourite bits of home hi-fi, if I'm being honest, most of the listening I do day to day is music played through my smartphone, particularly when I'm out and about. I suspect many of you use your phone as your primary music player too, despite all its shortcomings as a dedicated audio player. For a start, most modern smartphones, particularly at the premium end of the market, don't even have 3.5mm headphone jacks. So I thought I would do a couple of videos on how to maximize the audiophile experience from your smartphone. The situation is a little bit different depending on whether you use an iPhone or an Android like the one I've got here. There are differences both in terms of audio hardware and software, and even the kind of quality you can get over Bluetooth. So today we're going to focus on Android. But don't worry iPhone fans, there's going to be a companion video on iPhone audiophilia coming up soon. So first of all, we'll look at the hardware options in the Android world, then we'll look at software to get the best audio experience out of your phone. Let's just say for now that it's much more complex in Android to get bit-perfect, high-quality audio from your phone than it is from the iPhone, but it isn't impossible, as I'm going to show you, so stay tuned. The best thing about choosing Android is that it's still possible to get phones with headphone jacks, such as my trusty Pixel 4a 5G here, which I'm going to use for demonstrating in this video. But remember, the quality of the music coming out of the audio jack depends on two things. First of all, you have to take into account the quality of the digital to analog converter or DAC inside the phone, along with the quality of the headphone amplifier circuitry. Now, most Android phones use some variation of a Qualcomm chipset, or Exynos if you're using a Samsung phone here in Europe, for example. And the DACs built into these chips are actually reasonably capable. However, the headphone amplification is often neglected, with noisy, low power output circuits, sometimes prone to interference from the phone's other systems. You'd struggle to drive a decent pair of over-ear cans from the headphone output of most modern Android phones. The exception to this rule is the LG line of phones, particularly the G and V phones from the past 3 or 4 years. Many of these boast dedicated ESS Sabre DACs, like you'd find in a dedicated digital audio player. And they also feature more powerful internal headphone amps. But there's a problem. If you haven't heard, LG's Phones division is no more. It's dead, deceased. It's not pining for the fjords. It's an ex-phone division, so it's probably not a good idea to splurge your cash on a new LG phone. But if you can find a cheap second-hand LG V30 or 40, for example, in good condition, you might do well to snap it up. Having said all that, the output from most phones' jacks, including this one, is actually pretty sufficient to drive a pair of IEMS, and they will sound so much better than the rubbish bundled earbuds that come with your phone. Something like these, the TRN TA1s, which I'm really loving at the moment. Watch out for a review of those coming up. These cost about $35 to $40. If you've got a little bit more spare cash, then these are my current favourite sub £150 IEMs. They are, of course, the wonderful Moondrop Starfield, which I've had for over a year now, and you can see they're well used. You can see the chips on the paint. But cosmetic damage aside, they sound fantastic. But assuming your phone doesn't have a headphone jack like the cool but ultra expensive S21 Ultra, what do you do then? Well, the default position for many would be to get a pair of Bluetooth earbuds. Now, I agree that this isn't a true hi-fi option, and Bluetooth still absolutely sucks in many regards. I might do a video on it at some point if you guys want to see Bluetooth audio getting a good kicking. Just let me know in the comments. However, there are some good Bluetooth options out there that offer convenient listening and some excellent noise cancellation and surprisingly good sound quality. So my current top 2 picks for Android Bluetooth earbuds are these two. First of all, we've got the Sony WF-1000 XM4s. These cost £250, so quite a lot really in the UK, $279 in the US. And these are without doubt the finest sounding Bluetooth earbuds that I personally have tried. So these are my top choice, but if you don't want to spend that kind of money, The second recommendation is the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro, the latest version of Samsung's Bluetooth earbuds. Now, these two are quite expensive with a list price of $219. However, you often find them on sale for a lot less, if not actually just given away with Samsung phones. But you didn't watch this video to learn about Bluetooth headsets, because this is an audiophile video. You will quite rightly still want to use your expensive wired headphones. So let's look at the other options if your phone doesn't have a headphone socket. So the first option is to get yourself one of these, which you'll recognize as being a USB-C to 3.5mm dongle. But it's not as simple as that, because not all dongles are created equally in Android world. You see, there are passive dongles like this one and active dongles like this one, and despite looking very similar, they are completely different. So what's all that about then? Well, a passive dongle like this basically just passes through an analog signal from the USB-C port of your phone to the headphone jack. In essence, it's like having an external headphone jack with all the audio processing being done by the DAC in the phone itself. Now, the difficulty is that not all Android phones can output an analog audio signal through the USB-C port. The phones that can include models from the likes of Realme, Oppo, Oneplus and Xiaomi phones as well, I think, although don't quote me on that. However, Samsung phones and, for example, my Pixel 4a 5G can't do that. So, for example, if I plug my passive dongle into my Pixel phone, I will get a message. Let's have a look at what it says. It says analog audio accessory detected. The attached device is not compatible with this phone. Boo hiss. So as long as your phone supports analog audio pass-through through the USB-C port, then a passive dongle will be great. And then the audio quality will depend, as we've already said, on the phone's DAC and amplification circuitry. So the other kind of dongle you can get is an active dongle like this one. And this one's very different because it has a tiny little DAC and headphone amp housed in the dongle itself. So all you need to do is pass through a digital signal through the USB-C port, and the digital to analog conversion amplification is done by the dongle itself. Now, the good news is that all Android phones can pass through a digital audio signal through the USB-C port. So an active dongle will work with any Android phone, including the Pixel and the Samsung phones. In fact, this is the official Samsung 3.5mm adapter, and it sounds surprisingly decent coming through a Samsung phone. The Samsung adapter can handle high-res audio, I think up to 384 kHz and 24-bit. The other one that's quite good is the Apple USB-C to headphone adapter, but I think that's limited to 48 kHz files. So dongles certainly are a nice cheap way of upgrading your Android audio experience, particularly if you've got some nice IEMs. They tend to be cheap, they're very easy to carry around, but also surprisingly easy to lose. I can't tell you how many of these dongles I've lost over the years. Okay, we're leveling up now, and if you've got deeper pockets, both literally and metaphorically, you might want to try a full-size portable DAC over a mini dongle. They are typically more powerful and just generally sound a lot better. So here we have two great examples, the Audioquest Dragonfly Red and the Fiio BTR5. Now both of these are, as you can see, about the size of an old school USB stick, and they are both ideal for audiophiles on the go. Hooking them up to your phone is pretty easy. For the Dragonfly Red, which has an old school USB-A connection, you need a USB-C to USB-A adapter. This is just a cheap one from Anker, which costs I think about £4. The BTR5 on the other hand has a USB-C connection, so you need a USB-C to USB-C cable. This is the standard charging cable for the Pixel, I think. No, this one's the iPad Pro, in fact. And it works really well, although it's a bit long. You probably want to get yourself a shorter one of these for on-the-go listening. Now, the BTR5 has another trick up its sleeve, as it's also a Bluetooth receiver, so you can fire music over to it using the LDAC codec, which is the highest quality Bluetooth codec you can currently get for audio. The Dragonfly, on the other hand, is a really full-bodied ESS Sabre-powered DAC, and it has a really powerful amplification stage, so it's really good for more demanding full-sized over-ear headphones. Now the BTR5 is great value at around £90 here in the UK. The Audioquest Dragonfly is a lot more expensive. I think it's £169 currently. Of the two, when I'm out and about, I tend to prefer the BTR5. It's just a more versatile and great value device overall. I've done a video on it. Go check it out if you want the full details. And of course, you can keep going with larger, more powerful external DACs. So for example, you could use something like the iFi Hip DAC, which is a bit too big for me for everyday portable use, but it sounds absolutely fantastic, packing a huge bassy thump. You can even connect the phone over USB-C to a home DAC such as the iFi Zen DAC V2, which is a great little desktop DAC and headphone amp, which I've also reviewed recently. So that is all the hardware that you can use to upgrade your Android audio experience. But now let's turn to the peculiarities of the way that Android handles audio, which is what makes Android audiophilia a somewhat frustratingly complex experience. You see, you might have invested in a megabucks high-end DAC capable of handling 24-bit 192 kHz files and even MQA for what it's worth, but Android will merely laugh in your smug face because what it does is it takes any and all audio files and sends it through a resampling process in its native audio stack and outputs it at 48 kHz. Yep, that's right. Tidal, Spotify, Qobuz, Deezer, Amazon HD, all those files will be resampled to 48 kHz by the Android audio stack. That in itself is enough to upset some audiophiles, as a playback is then not bit perfect. Now, me personally, I'm a pragmatic audiophile, and whilst the OCD bit of me does enjoy a bit of bit perfection, is that a thing? I wouldn't mind if the resampling process didn't actually affect the sound quality. But the problem is that it sometimes does, audibly so. So for example, if you listen to the first track on Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd on some Android phones and you turn the volume up, you get this nasty hissing and crackling digital noise before the heartbeats kick in. Once the music signal itself gets louder, this noise becomes rather less audible, but it certainly ruins quieter passages of classical music, particularly if you have got some sensitive IEMs. Now this doesn't happen on all phones though, so for example on my Pixel 4a 5G, even through very sensitive IEMs through the headphone jack, I don't get any audible artifacts at all. However, on another phone I had, the LG V30, it really was noticeable when playing non-MQA tracks through the Tidal app, for example. If you are a bit perfectionist, however, fear not, because there is a solution in the form of this phenomenal app called USB Audio Player Pro, or UAPP for short. Now this is available from the Google Play Store. It's a paid app, it costs $7.99, I bought it years ago. Basically, what it can do is bypass the Android audio stack and access either the internal DAC or an external USB DAC directly, and it can therefore play bit perfectly through either the headphone jack or an external DAC. Now it can play files stored on your phone's internal memory or a micro SD card if your phone supports that. But the big news here is that it also allows you to log into either your Qobuz or Tidal accounts and play those through the same direct driver. The interface, as you can see, shows you the bitrate that is actually playing. So in the case of this Muse album here, you can see that the original file is 96 kHz, 24-bit, and it's playing it through the internal DAC, so outputting it through the headphone jack bit perfectly at 96 kHz. There is an optional MQA decoder add-on, which I believe is a paid in-app purchase, and it'll perform the so-called first unfold of your MQA file. It's widely compatible with a huge range of external DACs. So for example, here I've got the BTR5 connected via USB-C cable, and as you can see, the display says the USB DAC is outputting at 96 kHz. And sure enough, if we check the display, 96 kHz. If I switch over to a CD quality file, playing at just 44.1 kHz, as you can see, let's check the DAC, and it's switched to 44.1 kHz. So UAPP, absolutely fantastic bit of software, probably the best £8 I've spent on an Android app. It's important to note that UAPP is not the only app that can take advantage of this direct access mode to the USB DAC. If you predominantly listen to offline music, then you might want to check out Neutron Music Player, which is what I've got here. It's a bit less user-friendly in my opinion, but it does offer lots of opportunity to tweak settings and equalization if that's your thing, and the audio quality is also really good. It's a paid app and I think it too costs $7.99 or pounds. The HiBy music player is another option that you might want to consider because it is free and it supports tidal streaming along with offline file playback. I must admit that I haven't really used it that much. However, my brief first impression of it is that it isn't as easy or friendly to use as UAPP. So that is still my top recommendation for the best audiophile Android software. So there you have it. Those are my complete thoughts on the Android audiophile experience. I hope you've enjoyed the video and found it useful. If you have, then please do leave me a comment below. And if you have any further hints or tips or bits of software that you'd like to recommend, again, just drop a comment below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and I'll see you in the next video.